What is up, Bitcoiners? It's CK, and I sat down with Maximilio Carjuzaa from Money on Chain. It is an awesome Bitcoin project on the RSK blockchain. We have been getting a lot of these projects that are being built on RSK on the Bitcoin Magazine podcast because I think our audience is frankly just underinformed about what is happening on RSK and what is happening down in LATAM primarily. It was a really interesting talk with Maximilio. Uh, it was a really interesting talk with Max. We went over everything that happened or everything that has happened so far on Money on Chain. What was the impetus of its founding? Why people need a system like Money on Chain, and how to use Money on Chain, and most importantly, why Money on Chain is designed for Bitcoin bulls, people who want to use Bitcoin, people who want more exposure to Bitcoin. I think this is a really, really good conversation with Max. He goes deep into everything I just talked about. But before we get into that, I want to tell you guys about the Bitcoin 2021 conference. June 3rd, 4th, 5th in Miami. The 3rd is for our Whale Night, our VIP only event. And you guys, it is going to be awesome. We're 100% going to completely sell out of this event. We still have about 50% of tickets left. So you got to get them right now. You can use code Satoshi to get 10% off. We have Jack Dorsey, we have Michael Saylor, we have Nick Szabo. This is going to be the most high profile, the most lit Bitcoin event ever. And I mean, after 2020, after all the kind of social distancing, Bitcoiners want this and they are excited and ready. So don't miss out. Go get your ticket right now. Get 10% off with code Satoshi, and I'll see you guys in Miami. Enjoy this fantastic podcast with Max from Money on Chain. All right, Max, welcome to the Bitcoin Magazine podcast. How's it going? Where are you calling in from, by the way?
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me here. I'm calling you from Uruguay.
Okay, awesome.
I'm in South America.
So is the major so I guess let's get into a quick introduction. So this is Max, one of the co-founders of Money on Chain, which is a stablecoin system that is built on RSK. And it's very, very interesting. It is now kind of lived through several drawdowns, so it's shown its resilience and robustness. And I'm really excited to chat with Max about this system and why people are creating a dollar peg token and how the system works and who is using it. So Max, welcome to the show. Why don't you introduce yourself to the Bitcoin Magazine audience?
Okay, well, I'm Max Carjuzaa. I am co-founder of Money on Chain. I've been in this space in 2011. Mostly on Bitcoin. I really like Bitcoin. And I started to work in the space in 2013 when I gave some conferences about Bitcoin here in Argentina. I was living in Argentina in 2013. And in late 2017, we started this wonderful project called Money on Chain. And it's a lot more of a stablecoin platform because we have a product for every taste. We have the dollar on chain for people willing to escape Bitcoin volatility. And one wonderful thing about the dollar on chain is that you can redeem your dollar on chain against the smart contract and you are going to have Bitcoin back. And then we have another token, that is the token that I like more, that is called BPRO. The BPRO is a token meant for Bitcoin holders. The BPRO allows you to earn free leverage. That means that when the price of Bitcoin goes up, the BPRO goes up a little bit higher. And it allows you also to earn some of the platform fees and interest rate paid by traders. What traders? Well, we have another token that is called BTCX, and the BTCX is a 2x position on the price of Bitcoin. So people buying the BTCX pays an interest rate, and that interest rate goes to the BPRO also.
Gotcha. So yeah, those are like the three nuances, right? With that kind of go into building this mechanism. So you have people who want stability, people who kind of want to uh, be a part of the governance and just kind of like hold a Bitcoin position, and you have the double the levered Bitcoin position, and those three things kind of balance out each other to have a robust system. Is that correct?
Yes, we have a fourth token for governance. So we have the dollar on chain for people willing stability. Then we have the BitPro for long-term Bitcoin holders. Then we have the BTCX for traders, and we have the MOC token to govern the platform. Actually, the MOC token is not out there yet. We are going to launch late March or in April, the MOC token, probably late March, more than April.
Gotcha. Okay. So that makes sense. I guess, could you talk a little bit more about the team? Who is a part of Money Unchained, and what's kind of the inspiration behind building the platform?
Well, the founders of Money Unchained are three. I work with Alejandro Boxer. Alejandro Boxer is our CTO right now, and he's the best computer science expert I ever met. I worked with Alejandro for several years in several projects, and it's really a pleasure to work with him. He's a very, very professional. He's very, very professional. Then the first one to join this project was Manuel. I knew Manuel like 15 years ago when I was attending my MBA. We worked like 3 years or 4 years ago, we worked together with Manuel, and Manuel was the first one to believe in this project. I was telling the people for years, I want to make this stablecoin. We as Bitcoiners need this stablecoin, and people were telling me, no, that is impossible. You cannot do a stablecoin using something volatile as collateral. And the inspiration from the project was from my personal need. As I told you, I've been involved with Bitcoin since late 2011, and when Tether appeared in the scene, I said, "Oh, this is the solution to the hacks in the exchange. So we can sell our Bitcoins to escape from volatility and park the Tether in our Trezor, and that is secure." And it was evident, like 3 or 4 months later, it was evident that the centralization part was a problem. So I started thinking how we can solve this problem, And in 2015, I discovered, I knew Lito with Saliva, and he told me about RSK. So I said, well, I have to wait to RSK to be ready. Then I can develop a stablecoin that will use Bitcoin as collateral. So as soon as the RSK mainnet was ready, I started to work in our mathematical model to support the stablecoin.
Okay. And I mean, what is unique about Money on Chain is that you're building on RSK. There's a lot of, programmatic, synthetic stable coins on Ethereum, and even the centralized ones are on many platforms at this point. Why RSK? Why Bitcoin? And I guess, can you kind of talk about, that foundation?
Yes. Why Bitcoin? Because it's the better collateral for a stablecoin. Our protocol is robust enough so we could develop a stablecoin using another coin as collateral. But for the mainstream, for people in the street or corporates making business with the stablecoin, we believe that they need the best collateral, and the best collateral is Bitcoin without that, because it's the most liquid crypto coin, is the less volatile the crypto world, is with the biggest network effect. So we think that if you hold dollar on chain, you can exchange your dollar on chain for local currency in every single country, because with your dollar on chain, you can always go to Bitcoin, and from Bitcoin, you can go to whatever currency you want. Why on top of RSK? Well, when we start money on chain, there were no WBTC, so Ethereum wasn't an option. Moreover, today, we think that the RBTC on RSK is a much better, much secure Bitcoin than WBTC. The RBTC is more decentralized. We feel that RBTC is more decentralized than WBTC, and that is why we are in RSK.
Can you talk a little bit more about RBTC? Diego, actually, the co-founder of RSK, was on the podcast just last week, and we did talk about some of the components that go into pegging in, the innovations they're doing about pegging in that UX. But we also kind of talked about what level do you actually consider RBTC's decentralization and secureness? I think it's obviously more secure than BitGo is just one company that creates WBTC. So I think that's a pretty clear line.
Yes, exactly. Well, the way that the two-way pay works is very clever, because they have notaries and they have mining power backing up the pay. And it's very interesting that the notaries has no access to the keys. So there is no one that can steal the funds. That is very interesting. Of course, the peg is kind of slow because it's very secure. You have to wait 100 confirmations to move your BTC to RBTC. But I think that is not the end of the world. I use the bridge, I have used the bridge a lot of time. And yes, you have to wait like a day for the Bitcoins to go through. But there are some companies that are working in fast BTCs, fast pegs, where you can exchange your Bitcoin for RBTC in a very quick way.
Yeah, makes sense. So you would say it's the best product out there, and I know that they are working on constantly improving the process. I guess for the Bitcoiners out there who, they have BTC on the BTC chain, they've never touched anything with RSK. Can you kind of talk to them a little bit about if participating in money on chain, either with the long Bitcoin position, the 2x Bitcoin position, or even the stable coin option, if that sounds interesting to them, can you walk them through the process of going from, Bitcoin and cold storage to messing around with the platform?
Oh, yes, absolutely. First of all, I want to tell one more thing about RSK that is very interesting.
Okay, go for it.
It's one of the things why we choose RSK, and it's network fees. If you have to move the BTC on Ethereum, you're going to spend like $5 today, probably more. You can move BTC on the RSK network for 10 cents. And that is wonderful. RSK.
Well, how long is that going to last, right? Because a blockchain inherently has limitations, right? Especially if it's decentralized.
Yes, absolutely. But they have a very smart escalation plan. they know how they are going to escalate the blockchain. They have developed Lumino network that is like Lightning network, so you will be able to make off-chain payments on top of RSK and rollups, and well, there are a lot of initiatives to escalate the RSK blockchain, and I think that is wonderful because, of course, there is no way to make 1 billion people to use one coin on a blockchain. That is impossible. You need to have a plan to escalate, and RSK has a plan to escalate. That is wonderful. So you can enjoy low fees today, and probably we are going to enjoy low fees tomorrow. One thing that I cannot answer is if the scalability solution will be ready on time, or if we are going to see some increase in the fees before. I don't have the answer because you know how this world works in crypto world. People discover something and suddenly they realize that it's wonderful and everybody can be using RSK in 2 weeks. So the process to move your BTC to RBTC is very simple. You can use this wallet that is called Liquidity. That is the easiest way to transform BTC in RBTC because they integrate atomic swap. So you send your BTC to your Liquidity wallet, and then from your Liquidity wallet, you choose to exchange BTC for RBTC. They charge 0.4%. With one confirmation, you have your BTC converted to RBTC. Once you have your RBTC, you can move your RBTC to Nifty wallet using your Trezor or using your ledger, so you can have your RBTC secure in your hardware wallet. And once you have your RBTC secure in your hardware wallet, it only takes one click to buy BitPro or Dollar on Chain or BTCS.
And like, would you recommend that people hodl RBTC? Like, let's say they want to hold their Bitcoin position for a long period of time. You know, what's your feelings around RBTC for that, or would you recommend people swap back into on-chain BTC?
Very, very interesting question. First of all, I would recommend people to hold BitPro instead of RBTC because you are earning an interest in your Bitcoin. But I wouldn't recommend anyone to put 100% of his Bitcoin in BitPro. We must to understand that blockchain with smart contract has a biggest surface of attack of the Bitcoin blockchain. So no matter how much you have, if you have 0.1 BTC, don't put your whole 0.1 BTC in RSK or Money Chain. Just take 20% of your Bitcoins. The money that you are willing to invest and that you are willing to put that money to make passive income for you, that is a good idea to put that money in RBTC and Bitcoin. But I wouldn't recommend anyone to put 100% of their Bitcoins in Money Chain. Because we build Money on Chain with the top, with security as our top priority. We made thousands of simulations before launching the product. We made 2 audits. We made formal verification. But software needs time to, it's like the longest you have a software running, the more secure that software is. Money on Chain only have 1 year and 3 months of history. The protocol was running only by 1 year and 3 months in the mainnet. So I wouldn't recommend anyone to put all their Bitcoins in Money Chain protocol.
I think that's a very fair answer for sure. And I don't know, it's interesting. I think that, should people hodl it and is it secure enough is it's a good question. Um, on the flip side, let's talk about, where money on chain is today. From a liquidity perspective, from a collateral deposited in the contract perspective, what are the current stats?
Managing has it only has like 300 bitcoins in the protocol. We think that we are very, very, very small yet, or so far. But we have like 90% of transactions on RSK network. Like last time I checked, it was like 94% of all transactions in RSK are related to money on chain. And we see adoption every day. Every day we see 2, 3, 4, 5 new users that come to our platform and issue BitPro or dollar on chain on BTCs. The liquidity in the protocol was very good so far. We haven't any particular liquidity problem so far. There is always available dollar on chain to redeem, and there is always BitPro to be issued and to be redeemed, and BTCX to issue and to redeem. So we are very, very happy and how the protocol was working or is working. We are happy with the adoption also. In late March, we are going to make our TGE, the MOC token, that is the token that governs the platform, will start to circulate. Today, people holding the BitPro are earning a promise for those MOC token holders. So BitPro holders are going to have both and bet in the protocol because they are going to receive the MOC token.
So can you, I guess I want to talk about the drawdowns that Money on Pro has experienced. But before, since you brought up the governance token, can you talk exactly about the distribution, maybe even lessons learned? I'm be curious if you're looking at kind of different methodologies in the Ethereum space to do governance and how that's worked. Yeah.
Well, yes, we saw, as I told you, I've been in the space in 2011, so I saw a lot of ICOs and a lot of tokens. And one thing that we realized was that most of those tokens were like the token for a video game. There was no real utility in those tokens. People generally use the tokens just as a currency, and we see no point in using a token as a currency. You already have Bitcoin to use as a currency. So we focused in why we were creating the MOC token. And the MOC token was created because there was a necessity for the MOC token. We need a way to control the platform, to let the platform evolve, to let the platform make the decisions. That is why we have created the MOC token. And the MOC token, you can stake your MOC token, and if you stake your MOC token, you are allowed to vote, participating in the votes, and you are going to earn the fees generated by the protocol. The distribution of the MOC token holder is 20% for founders and advisors, 20% for early investors, 40% for staking rewards, that is people holding the BitPro or staking the MOC token, and 20% for the foundation. But those 20% in terms of the foundation are 50% are locked and can be used only if the MOC holders vote to use that. And the foundation can only sell or use 5% of the token. And the 40% that is going to be distributed between stakers and Bitprop holders will be distributed taking only 3%. We create a pool with those 40% of tokens, and then we took 3% every month to distribute between Bitprop holders and MOC token holders. So that incentive will last for many years, and the distribution will be very low.
Makes sense. It's always interesting because some Bitcoiners are just extremely anti any tokens at all, right? And then some Bitcoiners are okay, like, this is not money, it's not competing as money. Does it have like cash flows? Does it have a use case? Is it innovating on maybe how a public company is issuing shares? I mean, I've been part of the startup process, and I know that shares are issued in a much more centralized way. So if you were to compare those things apples to apples, I could see this as like maybe a future version of a company is kind of like set up this way. It's interesting to see all of these kind of experiments playing out.
Exactly. One important thing to understand is that, one important thing to understand is that my 5-year-old daughter just found a rabbit. She found a rabbit and she picked a rabbit from the street. It's unbelievable. I never know no one that.
And now you have a pet rabbit?
Sorry?
Now you have a pet rabbit?
Yes, now I have a rabbit. She found it yesterday. Well, we are trying to find the owner of the rabbit, but with no luck so far. Well, I was telling, one important thing is that we don't use the MOC as money. We use Bitcoin as money. The dollar on chain is backed by Bitcoin. The BitPro is backed by Bitcoin. The BTCX is backed by Bitcoin. The MOC is no money. The MOC is a governance topic. We are not going to use the MOC. We are not going to promote the MOC as a medium of exchange or anything like that, because it isn't. The only thing that you can do with MOC token is to pay the platform fees and to stake and vote on the platform decisions.
Makes sense. So let's talk about the money on chain system. Obviously, if you're issuing out a stable coin, you're also issuing out leveraged positions, and it's using Bitcoin as collateral. When Bitcoin's price goes up and down, that exposes the system to volatility, especially when Bitcoin's price goes down. Can you talk about the last two kind of major drawdowns that the system's experienced, and how it's fared?
Oh, yes. Well, the system is very over-collateralized, and that level of over-collateralizations depends on market conditions. For example, when the price of Bitcoin was, I don't know, 4K, the over-collateralization was 3-to-1. There should be exceed $3 in BitPro for $1 on chain. But today, for example, because of the price of Bitcoin went up so fast, I will check it right now and tell you exactly the number. Today, the over-collateralization that I'll see right here. The target coverage today is 7.58. So today you have to have $7.58 in Bitcoin as collateral to be able to issue $1 on chain. But that is not a problem for people buying dollar on chain, because there are two different people. There is people buying the BitPro, and there is another people, can be the same, of course, and there is another people buying the dollar on chain. So if you want to buy $1 on chain, you only have to send $1 in Bitcoin to the system. You don't have to lock $7 to issue. You just send $1.
So why is the draft or why is the over collateralization ceiling so high? 7x is kind of a lot. Maybe
Yes.
how's that based? Like who makes that decision? How's that set?
Okay, we have an algorithm that decides that, and the algorithm is very simple. We take the 200 moving average price, and we treat the bitcoins like if the price of the bitcoin were the 200 days moving average, and we ask for 3-to-1 collateralization, taking account the 200 days moving average. So that is why today the overcollateralization is so high, and why when we were 4K, the overcollateralization was only 3-to-1.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Actually,
well,
yes.
I use the 200-day moving average in the multiple for my investing strategy. So when it's 1 or below 1, in terms of the ratio of Bitcoin price to the 200-day moving average, that's typically a very good time to be buying Bitcoin. And right now it's
Exactly.
like 2.5, which is it's kind of getting to the expensive side of Bitcoin in terms of the long-term price versus the current price.
Exactly. And we have to assure the Bitcoin holders that the system won't collapse. So today, even the collateralization that we are asking is 7.6. The real over collateralization that the system has at this moment is 9.17. So the price of Bitcoin could drop 90% right now as we talk, and nothing would happen to the system. Everything will continue to work perfectly. And when the price of Bitcoin goes down really, really fast and really, really down, and the liquidation price is near, there are some incentives in the system for people to add collateral. For example, there is an obvious incentive to buy the BTCX, because when the price of Bitcoin goes down, the leverage of the BTCX goes high. So we are getting a lot of leverage almost for free on the BTCX. And if the price of Bitcoin continue to go down, then the system is allowed to sell BitPro at a discount to prevent liquidation. But if the price of Bitcoin goes down by 99% in 1 minute, well, the system won't liquidate. The system will just freeze for some time to let the price recover. And if the price never recovers, well, the MOC tokens holder can vote to liquidate the system. But the system won't liquidate. The guys that are going to be liquidated, if we have a 50% drop, are the guys holding the BTCX, the 2x position on the price of Bitcoin. So of course, you have bought 2x leverage, so if the price goes down by 50%, you are going to be liquidated. But the BitPro and the dollar unchained are not going to be liquidated.
Makes sense. I mean, it's interesting to hear the differences between this system and something like MakerDAO on Ethereum. Another big difference is, like you said, there's a presumption that fees are going to stay manageable on RSK, and they have a plan and a clear path to scaling too. So that can be important in the liquidation state, right? Because there was some debacles with MakerDAO around ETH being bought for $0, just a massive transaction fee when there's massive congestion on the network.
Well, there is a fundamental difference between MakerDAO and Money Chain. And the fundamental difference is that in MakerDAO, you have these CDPs, individual CDPs, so they can get liquidated. But in Money Chain, you only have a big pool. So there are no partial liquidations. You liquidate every BTCX at the same time if the price of Bitcoin goes down by 50%. That happened on March 13th. And that's all, just one transaction. So there is no problem with a congested network or price volatility. We design money on chain thinking about that the network will get competitive sooner or later, and there will be a lot of volatility sooner or later. And both things are going to happen at the same time, most probably.
So I want to transition the conversation to the users of Money on Chain, the users of RSK. It sounds like these protocols are still kind of in early days in terms of adoption. I know,
Yes.
in North America, I think RSK is very underrated. You're obviously in Uruguay. The RSK team is, in Argentina and around LATAM. Can you kind of talk about adoption and usage and who's using these platforms and why?
Yes, we see users from all around the world, but most of our users are located in Venezuela and Argentina. That is typically for me. People in United States or Europe doesn't understand the need of a stable coin rather than trading. Of course, if you're trading, you need a stable coin. But if you are a normal people living in the US, you don't need a stable coin. You already have the dollar. If you are living in Germany, you don't need a stable coin. You already have the euro. But if you are living in Argentina, where you have 40, 45, 60% of inflation, and you're not allowed to buy US dollar, but you're allowed to buy Bitcoin, you need a stablecoin for saving, for day-to-day transaction. You cannot, if you are a worker, for example, you're a designer, you cannot allow you cannot have all your money in Bitcoin because the Bitcoin is very volatile. And you cannot have your money in pesos argentinos or bolívares venezolanos because the inflation kills you. So stablecoin for them is a matter of life or death. And you cannot use USDC on Ethereum or DAI on Ethereum because you have to pay $10 to move a coin. That is not realistic for normal people that want to pay the pizza or want to pay the barbecue to a friend. So the real people is using dollar on chain in Argentina. There are some companies paying salaries in Venezuela, Uruguay, and Argentina using the dollar on chain. And we have a very interesting community of Bitcoin holders holding the BitPro. And why in Argentina? Because people know us in Argentina. Nobody knows who I am in the United States or in Europe, but people know me in Argentina because I've been in this space for 7 years, 10 years, 9 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's an Andreas Antonopoulos quote saying that when you're in the West, you have to explain to people why Bitcoin is important. But when you go to places that historically have not had good fiat money and historically have suffered from a lot of inflation, you don't have to explain why it's important. You just have to explain how to use it and how to access it.
Exactly. You don't have to explain stablecoin to Argentina. You just have to explain him how to use it. And they start to use it immediately. It's unbelievable. The other day, a friend called me. He sent me some stuff that I have to pay. So I said, well, I can send you dollar on chain. He told me, well, how does that work? Well, I explained him how does that work. And he started using it immediately. And now he's happy using dollar on chain and transferring dollar on chain to bank and bank to dollar on chain to pay other things. And in Argentina, you need this.
So can you tell me, like, let's talk about the liquidity, right? Like, obviously people are able to go from dollar on chain to fiat, that's important. You mentioned that the fact that you can immediately go to BTC and then go to fiat, like that always exists. But what's the liquidity for dollar on chain to fiat in Argentina or in Venezuela?
Well, there is a company called Crypto Markets. They do dollar to dollar chain to dollar, and dollar to bank account, and bank account to dollar. And there is another one, a very big one that is working in the photo. I'm not sure if I can say the name, but they are going to start doing the chain to bank to the chain in like 144 countries. In Argentina, there is also the fiat wallet, that is a mobile wallet that already integrates dollar and chain to bank account and bank account to dollar and chain. So that is very easy and very practically to use. Because you receive your salary in pesos and immediately you move your pesos to dollar and chain and stay in dollar and chain until the day you have to spend those dollars.
So 2 questions, and I know we're kind of getting up to our time limit, but last question is like, do these fintech companies also take Bitcoin, or is this just an exclusive dollar on chain kind of service?
No. These companies, they also take Bitcoins and RBTC, of course. Actually, they were working with BTC before they started working with dollar and chain and RBTC and BitPro. But they are like fans of money and chain. So most of the work is with money and chain, with dollar and chain and RBTC.
Awesome. Well, hey, Max, I definitely need to have you back on. I have a lot more questions, and I know we're out of time. I want to give you one last moment to plug yourself and tell people where they can learn more about yourself as well as Money on Chain.
If you want to learn about Money on Chain, please go to our page, www.moneyonchain.com. There you have a community page where you have the Telegram, the Discord, the forum, and everybody is welcome to join, discuss, and use the protocol. The idea of this protocol that it will be an open protocol.
Awesome. And where can people find out more about you? Are you on Twitter or anything like that?
Yes, I am. I'm in Twitter at Max Carjuzaa.
Okay. Well, we'll put that in the show notes so people can find that easily. Everyone, thank you for listening to the Bitcoin Magazine podcast. Thank you, Max, for joining and sharing, and answering all of my tough questions. You guys can find me at CK_snarks. Make sure to give us a 5-star review. Make sure to rate and share the podcast. It means a lot for everything. And go check out the Bitcoin 2021 conference as well. Peace.